everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back after a full week of break. I will definitely be sharing some photos with you guys on Friday at the coffee chat of how our trip went. I'm also going to tell you a little bit of a story today about something cool that happened while we were there. But lots of fun things happened for us last week. I got my hair cut and a little bit blonder, a little bit shorter. We also went to Myrtle Beach for the week, and we were there from Monday through Thursday. So that was a really fun trip. Hi, everybody. Hey. So we had a really good time. Evie did get a little bit car sick on the way down or over. It's about a 2.5 hour drive, so not too bad of a trip, but she has gotten car sick quite a bit. I think part of it's because she has not really been in the car much for her short little life because we locked down with COVID when she was only a few months old. So I think she just kind of tends to get car sick just a little bit. So that was not fun. We had to make an emergency pullover. But other than that, everything was great. We ended up with a really nice hotel room that was one of my favorite types of views. For some reason, I love to have a view where you can see the pool and the ocean because there's something about that beautiful, clear blue of a pool with palm trees and everything else. So we had a low floor, which I know a lot of times when you go to the beach, you want a high floor so you can see the big ocean. But I loved being just on the second floor because we were like right above the pool and you have this beautiful view of all the palm trees and then the ocean beyond it. So that was really, really nice. And I felt like we had the perfect weather. So it was originally supposed to be like one day of 70-degree weather. And then every day after that was supposed to be like really cold and rainy, but I practiced my manifestation. I said, I refuse to believe that we're going to have bad weather while we're there. And I know that from experience that I have been to beaches before where they said it was going to be bad weather and it just like kept pushing out and being nice weather throughout the week. So I was like, okay, I am just going to believe that it will be really good weather. And it was like 70 degrees for most of the week or for the few days that we were there. And it was just perfect beachy kind of weather. So, can't stay. Hi, Tamara. So welcome. Sorry that you can't stay, but thanks for stopping in to say hello. Thank you guys so much for the sweet comments about my hair. I know that it is a little bit shorter, but I feel like it really does frame my face a little bit. I felt like last time I got it cut, it was just a little bit too long because as it started to grow, my hair tends to grow pretty fast. It was getting too long too quickly, and I want to go at least 2 months in between. So I feel pretty good about it. And thank you guys for all the nice comments about it. But yeah, we had sun during Evie's nap time. George stayed in the room and did some reading, and I went out with Andrew. So I got some good like mommy Andrew time, which I think was much needed. We got some Starbucks. We went to the pool together. We went out to the beach and for a walk. So it was just about perfect. And I really needed it. I also got some good writing in while I was there. So the book is progressing right along, and I'm, starting Camp NaNoWriMo now in the month of April, and I'm about 31,000 words into the book. So we're getting there. We are making progress. And so much of my writing process ends up being a lot of time plotting, and then the writing tends to go very quickly. Now, sometimes, as we saw with Fate Surrender, the writing does not participate in my plans, but it was going really well last week. So hopefully that will continue, and I will keep in touch with you guys as to how it's going. I think that I'm going to try to plan a little bit of a getaway for a writing retreat for myself. And there are a little bit of tricks with logistics because George and I share a car, and this is part of trying to save money to buy a house and things like that. So we only have one car, which I don't want to leave them. So I might rent a car and go out to maybe Hilton Head or something for a couple of days. We'll see, but I will keep you guys updated on that, because if I decide to go away, I might end up doing a coffee chat or something, like one of our Friday coffee chats from my rental house or something. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I will keep you guys updated for later this month. Hey, JC. So you guys are very sweet. Yeah, 9 hours packing and moving. That is crazy. I know that our house is going up fast, but now it's going to slow down, because I feel like the framing part of the house always goes quickly. And now when they get into drywall and windows and like all the detail work, it's still going to be a few months, but that will be me packing and moving. So I hope that you guys are just about done and well moved in by now. Vanessa said, where's Hilton Head? So Hilton Head is on the coast here of South Carolina, but it's really close to Savannah. So it's like just about as far south on the coast as you can get of South Carolina. And it's about 2.5 hours from here as well. Myrtle Beach is farther north, but the Hilton Head Island is an island more in the south. And it is way more like Myrtle Beach is more touristy. And it's not that Hilton Head isn't touristy, but it's just more quiet, I guess. There's less restaurants and things to do and stuff like that. So it was just, oh, they did talk about, Renee said, I remember them talking about Hilton Head on Pretty Little Liars. I have not watched the entire show, so I didn't know they talked about that. But Hilton Head is one of my favorite like writing retreat locations, because there's a ton of beachfront condos and rentals that you can get for pretty inexpensive. And, you know, the beaches aren't quite as like, I don't know, like big and beautiful as the beaches at Myrtle Beach. The Myrtle Beach beaches are much more beautiful. I think the farther south you go in that Georgia area, the more brown the water gets, but it's still really beautiful. And it's just a nice place to be. Some Hilton Head beaches are beautiful, but some of them are a little bit more rough. It depends kind of which side of the island you're on. But anyway, I might do that. And if I do, I will definitely keep you guys updated with how it's going, and I'll be doing some vlogging and things like that so you guys can watch it. Today, we are going to be moving on to episode 9 of Shadow Demons, which is book 4 of the Shadow Demon saga. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying the readings so far. We only have 5 episodes left. So episode 9 today and 10 on Wednesday, coffee chat on Friday. And then next week will be the 3 finale episodes. So we'll have episode 10 and then 11 on Wednesday, and the 11 on Monday, 12 on Wednesday, and episode 13, which will be the finale on Friday. So we're almost done with this book. Now, what comes next, I have not decided. I was actually like, I have this, this is kind of my like monthly planner that I use. How cute is this Hello Kitty design? I mean, come on, that's so cute. But I use this planner to kind of plan my readings and my promotions and different things like that. So I was kind of going through it over the past couple of days. And what we might do is go straight to reading Rival Demons and maybe Demons Forever. So we might just go all the way through the first 6 book character arc and story arc. And then after that, what we might do, and again, this is all just sort of tentative. So if you want to put in your 2 cents about like, that doesn't appeal to me, or I would rather we did something different, please let me know, because I'm open to suggestions. So we might just read those 2 books. And then after that, go to more of a book club style, where we can kind of talk through books 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 before we get to the final book. Because by then, you know, in May, of course, next month, book 11 will be out. So that would give us like a week per book to kind of talk about it before the final book of the Shadow Demon saga maybe comes out towards the end of the year. So we'll kind of see how that goes. It's just going to be a little bit up in the air in terms of what comes next. The struggle with that is, of course, that pushes the Witch's Key series back to after the Shadow Demon saga is over. And that may just be the best way to do it, because I have a feeling as I'm writing this, that I'm really going to want to go straight on to writing the final book, because I think now that I'm in the world, I will get the most out of just finishing out this series. So I will keep you guys updated. But if you have any other suggestions, or you think, oh man, I just really am here for, you know, only want the coffee chats, or I'm not enjoying these, or I'm way behind on the books, then please go ahead and put your opinion out there, because I really want to know kind of where you guys are. So anticipation keeps the fun alive. Thank you, Jennifer. So next month, book 11 will be out. Thank you, Angela. It will. I have a feeling it's going really well. And, Fate's Surrender was kind of an anomaly. And news on Fate's Surrender before we get started with our reading is that I have, as of today, commissioned from Raven, my cover artist, the 4th book cover for that series. I'm not going to tell you just yet what that title of the book is, but I do have a title for that 4th book in the Eternal Sorrow series, and the cover will be coming from her soon. So I'm currently working with her on that. That is really interesting and exciting, and I don't know when that book will come either, but we're taking it one step at a time. Thank you, Gabriella. That is very sweet. You guys are being so very nice about my hair. I really appreciate it. I know it's like when you when you make changes and you're constantly like doing live video, I'm always a little bit nervous about what people will think of a new look. But yeah, you guys are being very nice and I appreciate it. Oh, goodness. There's so much going on. And yes, Renee, I have to keep you guys in suspense. I know, I wish that I could just like take a writer who writes super fast and just become them for like 6 months. So I could just finish everything that I'm working on and then move on to like maybe more steady releases instead of all these series. But we have to just be who we are. So again, I know we're kind of a little bit talky, but I wanted to catch up and, with you guys before I start reading. One really fun story that I wanted to tell you about is that, well, it's kind of fun and also a little bit personal as I do, but as things have gone really well in Q1 of this year, super productive. Y'all, I did over 60 hours of live video in Q1, which is a lot of hours, plus 16 videos on my Heart Breathings channel. Ran 2 courses with my biggest enrollment ever. I ran a word sprint challenge. I created a new workbook, several new bonuses, Janet and I put closed captions. She did most of that work, but we did all closed captions for all my courses. There was a lot of work happened in Q1. It was also my largest income quarter of all time, which is really exciting and a little bit overwhelming, but I got a lot of work done. But as I've talked about, and this is the personal side of things, it's so easy, I think, when you look at YouTubers and authors and, influencers or whatever, that you see those things like, wow, she got all those things done. But what you don't see a lot of times is the struggle, because everybody that you see online, whether they're like me or they have like 1 million followers, everybody has their struggles too. And for me, I always have what I often call a upper limit problem. This is from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, which is a book that completely changed my life, which is basically all about how so many of us have this upper limit that we believe we are capable of, like we're worthy of. And once we get close, or as we approach that upper limit, we begin to self-sabotage, because there's some part of our subconscious that says, I don't deserve this, I'm not good enough, or whatever. And so we sabotage ourselves because we don't think we should be able to go above this. And this is something that I have struggled with many, many times in the past. And so as I have this really good quarter and things are growing and, the new house is being built and everybody, we're starting to get out of hopefully COVID lockdowns and things are starting to look up a little bit, that upper limit has really been hitting me hard. So it has meant a lot of nightmares, a lot of anxiety and panic attacks. And I will be doing really well, have a good productive morning. And then in the afternoons, I'll get stuck on something that will really pull me down a rabbit hole of negativity. And I'm not saying this to complain. This is leading up to a really good story. So while I was taking a break on this trip, it was like the perfect thing. Evie was asleep. Andrew was inside watching something with George. And I went out on the balcony, and it was the day after the full moon, I think. So the moon was still basically full. And so I had this view, my feet propped up on the balcony, sitting there with the like perfect weather. It was like 68 degrees outside with the ocean sounds and the beautiful pool with the lighting there. It was just, imagine it was just perfect. And I started journaling. And I just kept going. And I was journaling about this upper limit problem and how I started to realize, and this is going to be super personal, but I feel moved to share it right now because I think maybe it's going to mean something to some other people here, that, you know, a big part of the reason that I have this anxiety and this upper limit issue is because I was trained my whole life, and I think so many of us are, to try to please everybody else. Like, I got to prove that I'm worthy. I got to show up so I can show everybody just how much I deserve this, right? So it's like proving yourself and constantly. And so then when you find success, you have to prove it even more. I promise I'm worthy of this. It's kind of that imposter syndrome stuff that some people talk about. So as I was journaling about it, I started to realize that really the solution is to stop looking for other people's approval and instead start thinking about how I feel about myself. And I started thinking, like, the more I can learn to really love and appreciate myself just as I am, not because I have 40,000 subscribers or because I sold, you know, this many books or made this much money, but just because I am a human being who deserves to be loved, just like every single person watching this. And instead of trying to prove myself with my accomplishments and being busier and more productive, to just try to chill out and say, I love my life. I appreciate this. I may not be the fastest writer. There might be some people disappointed. There might be people that don't like my hair or the way I look, or that I gained 50 pounds after I had my baby. Like, there may be people that feel that way, but all that really matters truly is how I feel about myself. And so one of the big things that I've done, and I mentioned this before, is taking Facebook off my phone. Doesn't mean I won't be hanging out in the coven, but I'll just be doing it at certain points. I am hanging out some more in the Discord channel because that is a really happy place to be in, I think. And of course with you guys, because this is really my happy place with you all. But I just wanted to share that message. And here's the other cool part, because this is something that I do based on Gabby Bernstein's book. Which one does she talk about that? Super Attractor. I've mentioned that book before. And she talks about how if you want to move toward something, you're trying to make a decision, then you can ask the universe for a sign and just say, if I'm on the right track, send me a sign. Or if I should buy the house, if this is the right book for me, whatever it is, ask for a sign. And so I was just writing. And I said, okay, I ask for a sign right here under the full moon with the ocean breeze. I'm going to ask for a sign. And the first thing that came to mind was, while we're here in Myrtle Beach, someone is going to walk up to me and give me something beautiful. And I was thinking maybe it'll be a crystal, like a rose quartz, or maybe it'll be a flower, or I don't know, just something beautiful. And that will be my sign that this is the true path for me right now, that I need to be focusing on really loving myself and showing up for my community, not because I'm trying to impress anybody or trying to make, impress or prove myself as worthy, but just because I love being here and this is fun and we're having a good time. And I just want to move toward that. So the next day, nothing really happened. That was Monday night after we got there. Nothing happened particularly, except we were just having a great time. But then Wednesday, the family was on the beach and I was walking around with Evie and we were kind of looking at shells and stuff. And this older gentleman was walking around. He had a little scooper that he was like scooping up shells and things like that. And he walked straight up to me on the beach and he said, I just feel like these are for you. And he handed me 4 of these like perfect little type. I don't know if anybody knows what the name of these shells are, but I always look for some of the like curly shells. I don't know what these are called, but I love them. And it's so hard to find them perfectly, like no damage. There's not a single chip or damage on any of these. And some of them even have like smaller shells in between and inside, but they're so pretty and perfect. So he handed me 4 of these, just pulled them out of his pocket, and he said, "Young lady, I feel like these are for you." And I just like sat down in the water. It was low tide, and Evie was sitting in the water playing around with some water and scooping up sand. And I just sat down and just thought, oh my gosh, the universe is this amazing place. And I just felt so supported and so loved. And so it was just one of the most magical moments that I have had. And so I felt like I wanted to share this with you all, because you are my people, and you will get this and you will understand how much this means to me. That, you know, I knew as I was inspired and writing that journaling down that this was something that I need to work on consistently, is this feeling of, I don't have to be better than anyone. I don't have to compare myself to anyone else. I can celebrate people that sell millions of books, and it's okay if I don't. And I love myself just as I am, regardless of how many people show up or how many numbers I have or how much money I make. And oh my gosh, Lorna, yes, that is so, so true. She says 1 for each member of the family. I didn't even think about that. The significance of the 4. Oh my gosh, that is so true. And this is just such a reminder that, you know, there is this great big world out there, and there's a lot of people sharing things constantly on social media about how, you know, for me, some of it is how I, you know, look at me, I'm 1 week postpartum and I've already lost all my baby weight. You know, there's just all that stuff online. I'm like 19 months postpartum and I have not lost, I've gained weight since I had my baby. There's all kinds of ways, if you look around, for things that can really send you on a negative spiral if you choose to focus there. And sometimes when we're weak and we're feeling, even when we're successful, that sabotage comes up of, I don't really deserve this life. So let me go looking for ways that I can make myself understand that I'm not worthy. I don't know how that, you know, I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but it's that comparisonitis. And I feel like artists in particular, or people who are out there trying to build a platform and things like that, we feel it extra because we're constantly being judged. We're constantly looking to numbers to try to tell if we're any good and that kind of thing. So this really meant a lot to me, because it was saying, this is the right path, Sarah, is to just love yourself. And that is a really big thing, right? And I just wanted to share that with all of you. And sometimes that is going to mean, like, loving myself is going to mean that I don't get the books out faster, that I feel disappointed, that I have panic attacks, or I don't show up with my best energy literally at all times. But I'm here, and I'm grateful for each person, like every single person. If I could speak to you directly, I'm here with you. I believe in you. You are just as worthy as me and as every single person here. And the more we can love each other and the more we can love ourselves, the better everything is going to be for all of us. So NL says, I had a moment this morning. Again, the universe gave me a reminder to be nicer to myself. And within an hour of self-sabotaging talk, the universe really is listening and always sending signs. It is so true. Paris says, I let comparisonitis keep me from telling people about my books. It sucks. I hate that we all deal with this. You know, it's kind of built in so many ways to social media, which is just a hard part of all of it, because how do you tell if you're getting better? How do you tell if people are paying attention? How do you tell if what you're saying means anything? And a lot of times the way you can tell is how many people show up, how many likes you get, how many books you sold. But there's so much more to it than that. in terms of your worthiness and things like that. So Christabelle, I think, shared something as well. She says, reminds me of when I complained out loud in 2019 about having to buy my own birthday cake when I was at the store. And as I was headed to check out, a man came running up with a paid receipt. It's like some people are there for you, even when you don't know them, complete strangers sometimes. So imagine the group Sarah has created banishes anxiety attacks. Yes. And I go, it can be a moment to moment kind of thing, because I was feeling great this morning. I actually reset my Kanban board. So you guys will see that on Thursday. I cleaned up my space. Everything was feeling good. And then I started to work on the book, and I started to think about how I had planned you guys to do that box set of 6 books and more. And I just don't think I have time to do it. And so then I started to feel really down on myself, and I had to remind myself, I need to keep one of these shelves kind of everywhere in the house so that I can say, remember just to love yourself, even if you're not perfect, even if you don't feel worthy of it sometimes. You're here and you're showing up, and just for being a human being, you deserve love. So that is my long thank you for coming to my TED Talk on loving yourself. Other happy news, I have reset my planner for April, and I'm getting to use this pretty bubblegum pink planner that I had to get used from Kiki K. It's one of my favorites. And I set it up really so pretty with all this kind of spring goodness here. Very cute little planner. So that is happy. And now we are going to read. So we have 7 pages, I think, to read today. Maybe, 7 or 8. So we should be able to make it through before the top of the hour. But I am excited to read this to you. So last time on Shadow Demons, we had basically Harper shows up to this party with her mother's dress, this black dress where she's got these angel wings that she has put on her back that are just kind of a glamour, basically. And she's shown up at this party. Not only is she ruffling feathers by wearing black, but she also is ruffling feathers by inviting a demon to their party. So she's got a lot going on. She's just recently read her mother's journal and is trying to figure out and put together the pieces of who all these people are. Her mother's best friend was named something L. She didn't know who that was, but obviously this person was close to her mother, but also then betrayed her and was trying to kill her or something. So she had that going on. Then there was a mysterious demon named Jay that she's just sure is Jackson, but he swears he has no memory of it. So there's all these things going on, not to mention the fact that Harper goes out to find Jackson at this party, and he's standing there with this very hot girl in braids and leather and a motorcycle. And she's like, who is that? And he just says, this is my old friend, Lazalia from the demon world. But she doesn't really know anything else about this girl. So there's a lot of feelings going on here. But as Harper is really trying to focus in on this journal and figure out who this was, and maybe her father's still in town, maybe her half sister is here, she wants all these answers. She asks Jackson, who was my mom's best friend? And he says, Elle, it's Lydia Ashworth. So that's where I left you guys before the break, is Lydia Ashworth is the infamous Elle from this journal. And she was Harper's mother's best friend. So now we're going to have a little bit more of a conversation about that, and potentially move into really pretty much from here on out is nonstop kind of action and turmoil. So hold on to your hats. Here we go with chapter 41. Who can tell the difference? Mrs. Ashworth, I said, a heavy feeling in my stomach. Drake's mom had been my mother's best friend. She couldn't be the same person who tried to kill my mother, could she? They were inseparable for years, Jackson said. Why didn't you tell me this before? I shook my head. It didn't make sense. I never thought it was important, he said, letting go of my hand when I started to pace. They were best friends, but after she died, Mrs. Ashworth swore Claire never told her anything about her private life. She told everyone she was just as surprised as they were to find out the truth. And everyone believed her? Jackson nodded. They cast spells on her to make sure she was telling the truth, he said. And about 4 years after your mother's death, they all voted to make her the local leader of the Order of Shadows until you returned. Who was the leader before her? I asked. An older woman named Melba Holloway, he said. She was the oldest living member of the order when your mother passed, so the title of leader naturally went to her at the time. My head swam with questions. And she passed it to Mrs. Ashworth? When she died, the council voted, he said. I don't know the details, but somehow Lydia Ashworth came out on top. I never thought to question it. My skirt swished around my legs as I walked back and forth in front of the oak tree. I was close to figuring something out. I could feel it. But how did it all come together? If Mrs. Ashworth was the Elle my mother was talking about, she would have known about the baby, though. Some piece of the puzzle was still missing. Are you sure you don't remember anything about a truth potion? I asked. Jackson shook his head. I studied his face. Was he telling me the truth? I could have sworn he was the J in her journal, but why would he lie to me about that now? Inside, the string quartet stopped playing and the voices died down. We should get in there, I said. It sounds like they're starting. Come on, he said. Let's get this over with. Jackson took my hand and led me around the house to the entrance of the large tent where the dinner was being served. The crowd parted for us, many of the women looking at our linked hands with a frown. I could tell they didn't know how to react. I was their prima futura, and they wanted to love me, but at the same time, they wanted me to be someone else. 3 white angels stood off to one side of the stage near the front tent. They turned in unison as Jackson and I approached. Lark's eyes grew wide, and she squealed, "Oh my God, you look amazing," she said. "Let me see your wings." I turned so she could touch my feathery black wings. We were all supposed to be good angels, Brooke said, pouting. That was the whole point. You look evil. I leaned toward Brooke and raised a single eyebrow. In this town, who can tell the difference? Chapter 42, Was It You? Throughout the rest of the night, I kept my eye on Mrs. Ashworth. It wasn't hard since she was wearing a bright red sequined dress. I wanted to catch her alone so I could ask her about my mom. Unfortunately, as the current leader of the Order of Shadows, she was like a social butterfly, flitting from one table to the next, talking to everyone in the room. The party began with a 4-course dinner that was actually really delicious. I'd never eaten a fancy meal like that before, where waiters picked up your food and offered you coffee and dessert. I felt slightly out of place with all the fancy silverware on the table, but Jackson made it fun, and Lark showed me which fork to use with each course. After the dinner was a brief ceremony where the Peachville Women's Society gave out awards for various acts of community service. I laughed when I heard the name they'd given the group. I'd been wondering how they would celebrate the order without actually being able to tell everyone in the room who they really were. The men clapped politely while the women shared secret glances and private jokes. Brooke helped pass out the awards, which apparently was supposed to have been my job as prima futura. I was relieved to be able to stay firmly in my seat. Once the ceremony was over, everyone made their way inside to the ballroom. The beautiful wood floors were polished and gleaming. At least 1,000 candles had been placed around the massive windowsills that lined 3 of the walls. An orchestra played at one end of the room, and a long table with refreshments had been set up on the opposite side. Jackson and I made our way slowly into the ballroom. I stretched my neck to try to see where Mrs. Ashworth had gone. I'd lost her in the crowd. "Calm down," Jackson said. "You'll have plenty of time to talk to her. Why don't you just go by her house tomorrow afternoon or something? I'll come with you. I shrugged. I don't want to talk to her tomorrow, I said. I want to talk to her tonight. She was my mother's best friend at one point, Jackson. She has to know something. Maybe she even knows who my father was. What if he's still alive? I get it, Jackson said. I'm just saying you shouldn't stress yourself out if you don't get a chance to talk to her. We moved over to a spot near the large arched entry to the ballroom. That way, we were enough out of the way not to annoy people, but still close enough to the door to see everyone who came in. The ballroom filled up quickly, but there was still no sign of Mrs. Ashworth. I was getting antsy. My stomach flip-flopped. I knew Jackson was right. I could talk to her any old time, but I'd waited so long already. I couldn't bear to wait another minute. Besides, if she really was the one who had plotted to kill my mother all those years ago, I deserved to know. Finally, I spotted her bright red dress through the crowd. She was still standing in the foyer, milling about and talking to people who were leaving early. I bit my lip. Would it be rude to go interrupt her? Tell her I needed to talk? I was already on her bad side after our argument earlier in the afternoon. Maybe Jackson was right and the party was the wrong place to bring this up. I bounced on my tiptoes full of nervous energy. The crystal prisms hanging from the chandelier above us began to sway and clink together. I cringed. Ever since the heritage ritual, my powers seemed to be stronger than ever. Jackson laughed. Just go talk to her before you end up bringing the light fixtures down on our heads, he said. Do you want me to go with you? Do you mind? I asked. I wouldn't ask except that she got really angry with me earlier and I completely lost my temper and broke a vase. So maybe if you're there with me, I'll be able to control myself. I'll be right behind you, he said, then motioned toward the foyer. My muscles tensed and my hands trembled as we crossed into the entryway. Mrs. Ashworth was talking to a couple I recognized as the parents of one of my teammates. I caught her eye as I walked up, and she did a slight double take. She excused herself from the couple and turned to walk away. I couldn't shake the feeling she was purposely trying to avoid me. Mrs. Ashworth, I called, chasing after her. Do you have a second? There's something I'd really like to talk to you about. She paused, her forehead creased. Her eyes traveled up and down my dress. She opened her mouth but didn't say a word. Mrs. Ashworth? She frowned. Yes. Can we talk? I asked again. She gave a slight shake of her head. Yes, she said, her shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, I just had the strangest feeling of deja vu. I looked at Jackson. They'd both had a similar reaction to this dress. I wondered again when my mother had worn it. Something was definitely triggering a memory for both of them, a memory that seemed stuck inside their minds. Should we go into the other room? I asked, looking around for a place that might be quiet and more private. Mrs. Ashworth waved off my suggestion. No, she said, I haven't got much time. I cleared my throat and picked at the polish on my nails. This might seem, well, it's a little bit of a strange question, I said, stumbling over my words. Now that I was standing right here in front of her, I realized I couldn't just come right out and accuse her of some strange betrayal 16 years ago. I was wondering how well you knew my mother. Mrs. Ashworth tilted her head to the side and raised an eyebrow. We all knew your mother, she said. We were on the same cheerleading squad together. Yes, I said, I know, but I was wondering how well you knew her outside of the cheerleading team. I waited as Mrs. Ashworth searched my face. She looked confused and caught off guard. I don't know what you mean, she said. I was friends with your mother just like everyone else. Was there something more specific you wanted to ask me? I looked to Jackson for reassurance, and he nodded. I took in a deep breath. I found a journal of hers, I said, in the attic at Shadowford. Mrs. Ashworth's face grew tight. Really? She said. I didn't know your mother kept a journal. I could tell from her tone that the idea of a journal made her uncomfortable. In the journal, she mentioned having a best friend, I said, someone she talked to about everything, including being pregnant with me. Mrs. Ashworth let out a breath as if she were relieved. Was it you? I asked, my knees trembling. She stood up straight. I wish it was me, she said, her tone apologetic, but I didn't know anything about her having a baby until she died. Your mother and I were really close for years, but senior year, she kind of withdrew from all of us. It got to a point where I felt like I didn't even know her at all anymore. I'm so sorry I couldn't help. Maybe you could check with the other girls on the squad, or maybe it was someone else in the town. I knew she was hiding something. I could feel it in my bones, but how was I going to prove it? So you don't remember who my mother's best friend was? I asked. Someone she hung out with a lot and would have trusted with her deepest secrets? Someone else with a first name that started with an L? Mrs. Ashworth cleared her throat. No, I'm sorry, she said. Your mother was very secretive about her private life in that last year or two before she died. I hope you find the person you're looking for. She started to walk away, but I reached out without even planning to. I couldn't let her go. She stared at my hand with obvious distaste. Was there something else? She asked, pulling her arm away. Just something she wrote in the margins toward the back of the journal, I said, following some strange instinct deep inside. I was wondering if you could tell me what it means. Mrs. Ashworth glanced toward the ballroom and sighed. If you want to bring the journal by the house sometime, I'd be glad to take a look, she said. I really should be getting back to my guests. Have a nice evening. My heart raced. She knew something. I felt sure of it. There was something about the way she was trying to get out of there so fast that just felt all wrong to me. She was lying to me. Before she disappeared around the corner, I shouted out the words from my mother's journal. Dialoshi Tianuk. The words buzzed in my mouth, so full of power it made me dizzy. Mrs. Ashworth stopped, her feet frozen to the spot. She lifted her hands to her ears and screamed. Her voice echoed through the grand entrance. I backed up, shocked. Slowly, she turned toward me. When her eyes met mine, there was such hatred and fire in them. It sent a chill straight to my core. She drew in a sharp breath, and for a moment, she was so still, she seemed to have turned to stone. I tried to look away, but my eyes were glued to hers. A searing heat spread through my chest. What was happening to me? I opened my mouth and sucked in a breath, but no air would come. Panic shot through me. I used every ounce of my will to try and tear my gaze away from Mrs. Ashworth, but I couldn't move. Tears gathered in the corner of Mrs. Ashworth's eyes, then rolled down her cheeks. She slowly lifted her hand to her mouth, and I could see that she was shaking. Everything around us went dark, and suddenly, it was just the three of us. Mrs. Ashworth stood in front of me, and Jackson stood by a window, only we weren't in the foyer at the party anymore. We were in a strange place I didn't recognize. An abandoned house? In the misty darkness, it was hard to concentrate on anything solid except for a younger Lydia Ashworth. Visions flashed before my eyes. One second, she was smiling and greeting me with a hug. The next, she was on her knees in front of me, her hands bound behind her back with a rope. The wooden floor of the house was littered with orange and brown leaves that crackled under her knees. How could you? The words came out of my mouth, but it wasn't my voice that spoke them. The voice was similar, but slightly deeper than mine, with more of a southern accent. You never wanted to be prima. she said. "You don't deserve it. You treat the whole thing like a joke, but I wouldn't do that. I would treat it like an honor. I would never take it for granted or try to change the traditions." "Traditions?" I said in my strange voice. "For that you would kill me and my child? I thought you were my best friend." "Claire," Jackson said, walking up to me. "There's no use trying to talk to her. She's made her decision. Let's just get this over with." Claire. That was my mother's name. What was going on? Where were we? "Do what you want to me," the younger Lydia Ashworth said. "You can't stop what's coming for you." "I can stop you," my mother's voice said. Lydia Ashworth laughed. Her voice was high and shrill and evil. "It's too late for you, Claire. The crows are coming for you both." "The crows?" my mother said. "What are you talking about?" "You'll see," Lydia said. "Your baby will die before she's even born." I raised my hand to slap her, but Jackson stepped in between us. "That won't help anything," he said. I made a fist instead and turned to punch the wall. I caught my reflection in the broken pane of the window and gasped. I was my mother, young and beautiful and alive. I didn't want to look away, but it wasn't me who was in control now. Somehow the memory was in control. I turned to Lydia Ashworth and smiled. "My baby has already been born," my mother said. I could feel tears forming in the corners of her eyes. "And she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She's going to grow up far away from here where you can never find her." Lydia Ashworth's face went pale. "What do you mean? That's not possible. Your baby wasn't due for another few weeks," she said. "She came early," I said in my mother's voice. "But you won't remember that. You won't remember anything about being my best friend or wanting to kill me, and you won't remember that I ever had a child." Lydia Ashworth began to cry. "You're going to wipe my memory?" "Not everything. We're just going to take certain memories away forever," I said, placing my hand on her forehead. "Dialoshi Tianuk." A bright light flashed, blinding me for a moment. I stumbled backward, banging my hip against a table. When I opened my eyes again, we were back in the grand entrance. Chapter 43. I could taste her bitterness. Rage bolted through me. I looked at Mrs. Ashworth and for the first time saw her for who she really was. "You wanted to kill us both," I said. "How could you do that? She trusted you. You were her best friend." Above us, the chandelier swayed back and forth. "You don't know what you're talking about," Mrs. Ashworth said. "You've gone mad." My mind raced to put all the pieces together. Somehow, the words in my mother's journal had opened up memories that had been locked inside, memories that had been blocked to protect me all those years ago. One thing I understood very clearly was that Lydia Ashworth had tried to kill my mother. She wanted my mother out of the way so she could take over the line as prima. She'd mentioned it to the crows. Was Mrs. Ashworth working with them all along? Was she the one who had pledged a blood oath to them? "You never thought my mother was good enough to be the prima," I said. Anger bubbled inside my heart like a boiling pot. I couldn't hold it in. Outside, lightning flashed. "Harper, we have to get out of here," Jackson said. He reached toward me, but my body soared up into the air, flames forming on my fingertips. The swinging chandelier finally gave way, crashing down into the middle of the entryway with a great crash. The only light left was from the candlelight in the ballroom and the fire in my hands. Fury consumed me. I wanted her dead. She had to pay for what she'd done. A thick fireball formed in my hands, and I let it fly toward Mrs. Ashworth. People screamed as they ran from the ballroom to see what was happening. I could hear Jackson yelling my name, telling me we needed to leave, but I couldn't think logically. All I could think was revenge. The fireball disintegrated into nothing but orange sparks before it even got close to Mrs. Ashworth. Zara stepped forward from the shadows, her white hair flowing behind her and her eyes wild. "What are you doing?" she shouted. "She's gone insane," Mrs. Ashworth said, hovering behind Zara like a scared child. "She just started attacking me out of the blue. You've got to bind her." "Harper." Zara looked up to me, fear and concern in her eyes. "You're the prima futura. Why are you acting like this?" "I will never be prima," I said, flames flaring again from my fingertips as I hovered several feet above the ground. "Not if this is the type of person you want as a leader. I never wanted this in the first place. I would rather die than be a part of the Order of Shadows in this town." "She attacked me," Mrs. Ashworth said. "She needs to be punished. If you won't shackle her, I will." She pushed her hands out in front of her body. Black chains flew toward me, and in an instant I threw up a shield to block her magic. The chains melted against my shield, turning into black, oily ooze. Darkness came over me like a cloud as my shield absorbed some of Mrs. Ashworth's energy. I could taste her bitterness on my tongue. Distracted, I didn't even notice the second chain heading toward me until it was too late. The shackle wrapped around my left wrist, and Mrs. Ashworth began to pull me toward her. In terror, I looked at Jackson. What had I done? In a blink, he shifted into smoke and soared up to meet me. His shadow slammed into me, and the world around me turned to black. Chapter 44, Away from this town. We were outside. I had no idea how we'd gotten here. Everything was a blur of black smoke, twisting and turning. My head was spinning. Jackson led me to a spot in the backyard where we would be completely hidden from anyone entering or leaving the Ashworth house. "Sit down," he said. He spread his black jacket across the grass and held my hand as I collapsed. What the hell just happened? My voice sounded screechy and full of panic. I lifted my knees and held them close to my chest. I didn't feel like myself. Some dark energy was swirling around in my head, and I couldn't get it to stop. I held my hands out. Some of the oily residue of Mrs. Ashworth's spell was still stuck to my palms. I rubbed them against the grass with a violent need. Jackson sat down and took my hands into his. "It's going to be okay," he said. "I couldn't take us far, but we should be safe here for a few minutes." "What was that?" I asked. "The memory. Was it real?" My voice deteriorated into tears. "Shh," he said, running his hand down the length of one of my blonde curls. "Did you see it too?" I asked, clawing at the shackle still hooked to my wrist. We were in some kind of old abandoned house. There were leaves on the floor, and it was dark. Did I imagine it? "I was there too," he said. "Harper, I remember everything now. Your mother, she came to me when she was pregnant with you. She needed help, just like you said, a truth potion." I laid my head forward against my knees, trying to catch my breath. "Mrs. Ashworth, Lydia, she was her best friend," I said, "but she was trying to kill her, wasn't she?" "There was truth. That was the truth your mother found out," he said. He kept looking around to make sure no one was coming for us. "That's why she sent you away, to keep you safe." "How come you didn't tell me all this before?" "Harper, I didn't remember this until just now," he said. "That language you spoke just before the vision started, that was my language, shadow demon language. It's a spell that blocks certain memories. I taught your mother that spell, Harper, so she could wipe out memories of you, wipe our memories of you after she gave birth. She did it to protect you." "I don't understand," I said. "Why would she wipe your memories too?" "Because once you were safe, she needed to make it so that no one remembered you ever existed. Not me, and definitely not Lydia Ashworth. As long as no one knew you were alive, they couldn't hurt you. But she never planned for it to be permanent. Once she was sure the threat was gone, she was going to come for you. The pieces of the truth all started coming together in my mind. She'd been murdered by the crows before she ever had the chance to come for me. I had no idea I'd ever really even talked to your mother, he said. That's why when you asked me about the potion earlier, I didn't remember giving it to her, not until you unlocked the memory. Harper? Someone near the tent called my name. My body tensed and my eyes grew wide. I looked at Jackson, but he lifted a finger to his lips. I held my breath and listened. Harper, are you out here? I recognized the voice. It was Zara. I started to stand up. The High Council needed to know what Mrs. Ashworth had done to my mother, but Jackson put a hand on my shoulder. I drew my eyebrows together, questioning. He just shook his head. We waited together as Zara continued to call for me. Eventually, she disappeared back into the Ashworth's house. We can't trust anyone, Jackson whispered, not even people you thought were your friends. We're in a lot of trouble, aren't we? I asked. They know about my powers now, he said, and they know you don't have any intention of becoming their prima. Plus, they all saw you attack Mrs. Ashworth. I'd say we're in some serious shit right now. She's going to tell them whatever she has to in order to make you look bad. We've got to get away from this town for a little while. How long is a little while? I asked. How many times had I dreamed of running away with him? But somehow, now that the time had come, it didn't seem so romantic. We weren't leaving because we chose to run away together. We were leaving because we had no choice if we both wanted to stay alive. As long as we need to until we figure some of this out, he said. His features darkened. Harper, remember that night you came to my room and I wouldn't show you what I'd been drawing? My stomach twisted. I nodded. One of the pictures was of you in that dress, he said. But when I was drawing it, I kept seeing your mother's face. I didn't understand it until now, but that was the dress she was wearing the night she blocked all our memories that you existed. I turned away and stepped into the darkness of the woods behind the house. How had everything gotten so complicated? I felt so messed up inside. Where will we go? I asked. I know a place, he said. You'll be safe there. Okay, I said, too drained to argue. Harper. Jackson placed his hand on my face. Yes, I said, my breath catching in my throat. I know this isn't the right time, but I saw that shackle hit your wrist, and for a split second, I was so scared I was going to lose you, he said. I don't want another minute to go by without telling you how I feel. His eyes met mine. Harper, I love you. Three minutes to go until the top of the hour. I know, I saw that. She just keeps going when I was so sure. When I was trying to decide where I wanted to break things, I decided that moment of him finally telling, like he's, if you go back and read, he's been wanting to tell her that he loved her for a while now, but he's not sure he's ready to make that commitment, of course. And that doesn't quite go into the story, but I can tell you because I wrote it, so I know how he feels. But there's that feeling for him of, I don't really want to love this person because she's a teenager, she's young, she doesn't really know what we're getting into here. She doesn't, she's going to potentially have this duty of becoming the prima and having Airden trapped inside her. Like, this is the worst possible thing. And if we could only have Jackson's point of view, and I would say that probably by around this book and towards the end of it, and definitely by the time we get to Rival Demons, you'll start to see why I started to feel like I needed to split this out into multiple points of view, because it would be so powerful if we could see Jackson's point of view here, and we don't. All we get is Harper's point of view. But from Jackson's point of view, he's been keeping these secrets from her because he feels like it's useless, right? There's no reason to put it all on the line because she is locked in. And as far as Jackson knows, there's nothing he can do here. Like, he can't save her from the order. He can't change anything. And he's been in this town for 50 years trying to change things, and nothing's changed. And so he feels kind of hopeless with it. But this moment for him, where he sees Harper not only standing up to Lydia and doing something that no women in the order ever do with their primas or their acting primas or anything of authority, she's like, doesn't care that she's at this party. She's just like, I need answers. Oh my gosh, I just attacked the leader in front of this whole town, including people that are there that don't know anything about magic, right? So she's just really put everybody in danger and is going to cause, oh, that is a good point, Alex. That would be fun, a deleted Jackson scene of this scene, him watching this happen. But for him, when he sees that shackle go onto her wrist, and he's thinking, I've lost her, because he's seen the order time and time again when someone, and you'll see this more as we go, what they do to women who disobey. And it is horrifying. You'll get to meet some of those people coming up in book 5 if you continue on. But basically, he's seen it happen time and time again, that that people like this that rise up either have their memories wiped, they get manipulated. There's all these things that happen, but he sees her being brave, and he has that moment of fear of, I'm going to lose her. And he has to make a split decision. Do I shift? Because if they see him shift, they know he's got his powers back. And that is an issue for him for many reasons, which you'll find out even more about as this goes on, because they want him there in that town. They've had him trapped there for 50 years. And it wasn't until that power kind of, when he stepped inside and Airden kind of stepped inside of him when they were trying to release Caroline from those roses, he's been stuck without any power and all of that. So he's got to decide, do I just let her be taken and watch her be dragged off by the order? Or do I reveal my powers and make this move? And he knows that we got to go. We can't stay here. Life will never be the same. This is a big turning point in the whole series, because there's no turning back from this. There's no like, now I'll be the good girl that you wanted me to be. This is a pivotal moment. So I wanted to end it not on that dun, dun, dun moment, but on that moment where he finally says, I love you. Because he's not only telling her, it's like a new commitment. It's like, okay, this is real. And Christabelle says he has other reasons too. And you will know more about that in book 5 as well. But yes, it is. And he just says, I think I just peed myself. Don't listen to Sarah read an intense scene pregnant. Well, congratulations on the baby. But yeah, I just wanted to end with that. So we have only 4 episodes left to go. And like I said, this book ends with a big cliffhanger moment. So we may take 1 week break and go straight into book 5. Of course, you guys, if you're dying to know what happens, you can always go and purchase this book. It's only 99 cents. Shadow Demons is kind of permanently on sale for people that want to kind of get deeper in the series. So you can read it with us, along with us, or you can go and purchase it for 99 cents or go grab the paperback. I know that Christabelle has some book plates that she's been sending out, and she has run out of them. So I'm getting more to her coming up soon. So just be patient with those. Hopefully those will go out before the end of this week. But an intense episode today, and it just continues to go. So from here on out, we're kind of on a wild ride, and I'm excited that you guys are going to get to see it. So we will do episode 10 on Wednesday, and then another coffee chat on Friday. And then next week will be the 3 final episodes. And none of them are super long. So this is one of the longer episodes that we have. So they'll only be about 6 or so pages for each one. So it's not going to be super long, but very intense. So Michelle says, read book 5. I've already read it, but love listening to you read it. So, she says, read book 5. So yeah, it might be kind of fun. Rana just purchased book 5. Yeah. When you get to the end of this book, I feel like you're either hooked on the series or you're not, but there's no going back after this. I won't say any more than that. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know we went a little bit over time, but thank you for listening to my story and other things. I don't know if we're going to see an Evie because I think they're all upstairs, but I will make sure that you guys get to see her on Wednesday since we didn't get to see her today. But thank you all so much for being here. Yes, have a lovely day. And I will see you in the Facebook group or over on the Discord channel or Instagram or wherever you like to hang out. I will be there. And like I said, I had planned on having a box set that I told you guys about that would be kind of a discounted box set of all the books in the first part of the series. But I don't know that I'm going to get that out before Vengeful Darkness, because right now I am in like blinders mode. That is the main thing that I am talking or working on right now is book 11. So I will keep you guys updated on how that's going, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Thank you for being here. All right. Bye, y'all. Yay.